All of you will now be proud alumni of IITG, an institute that has grown.
What you're watching is footage from the 18th Convocation of IIT Guwahati. It was uploaded in 360p resolution in a 4:3 aspect ratio.
Faculty achievements, a number of faculty
And this
members
is from last year's convocation.
and brought
How did such a remarkable change in broadcast quality come about in just under 2 years? To answer that, we had to look at the combined effort of a dedicated group of people who worked for the vision of campus broadcasting system. June 11th, 2 weeks prior to the convocation, the first meeting is underway. Staff from the maintenance section and CC meet with CBS to talk about requirements for the stream. The first thing on everyone's minds is fixing the light setup on stage.
Lights is what people actually see. So that decides how grand the event is, how elegant the event is, and it also in a way defines how important the event is. So it is really important to get the lights right. Now in our auditorium, that's the Bhupen Hazarika auditorium, the light setup is in this kind of a way. So we have three bars, 2 on stage and 1 in front of stage. So it kind of follows the actual light setup the way it should be. Like you need a key light that lights up the subject, then you need fill lights, and then you need a light to separate it from the background. So it may be the rim, or you can light up the background as well.
A light setup plan was detailed and handed over later that day, and once most of the lights were fixed, they had to be directed by hand to ensure that they were on point.
The setup for convocation went something on these lines. The lastmost bar that actually is placed behind all the people on stage, that is used for the rims mostly, and also to fill up a stage a bit here and there. Then on the second bar, that comes like right on top of the subjects or the professors and the director and the anchors and the musicians, that kind of lit the center of the stage, because you see if the center of our stage extrudes outwards in a curve. The 2 bars that I spoke about on stage, we can actually get them down. So it's like there's a motorized mechanism where you get those down, you set the lights, you direct them, you raise them up, and you check it out. So it's kind of more of an iterative thing, and you do it till you get it right. Coming to the key lights. So key lights were a major part, because in our auditorium, the key lights that need to be set up are relatively far away from the stage. So we have a catwalk that runs from above the auditorium, and it leads to a small curved path where all the lights are hung to a bar. So we went there as well, and then we directed all the lights the way it should have been, so that the event looks grand, auspicious, and later probably when students look at it, it also looks nostalgic.
Faculty achievements,
Another element of the broadcast that had to be taken care of ahead of time was setting up the streaming network.
The stream basically has like 2 or 3 aspects. We have the entire camera unit, right? So they feed the video to an encoder which is near the cameras itself in the control room. So and that encoder sends the video feed. It's the final video feed with the overlays and everything, and then it sends that video feed to our main encoder, main server, okay, using RTMP protocol, single thing. And then we send a 1080p video to our main encoder, and then what it does is it transcodes the video into 4 different formats, like 1080p, 720, 480, 360, and then again it makes it available in a particular folder basically, so that if whenever some other user he opens our page, our website, so the browser negotiates, like it talks to the server and then it checks what is the available bandwidth. So depending on the bandwidth, it loads whatever the quality that's required. So the first meeting we had, it's with a network administrator from the computer center. So basically, since we don't have any computing resources and stuff, we need like certain resources like servers and public IPs which has like good bandwidth, so that it can support like all those thousands of users who are going to visit our website. And since it's like a video streaming server, it would require like a lot more bandwidth than a usual website. So we went there to tell them our roadmap, like what we are going to do and how we are going to do and what are our requirements. So every year we do the same thing. We go to them, we tell our roadmap, and then they provide us the resources to achieve that. So CC already gave us a couple of servers, high-end servers. So we went to check upon the servers, like are they working, like all the network ports are working, and are the connections connected to the network ports, and is the power, is there a UPS backup for the servers, etc. To look at those kind of things. So the two servers are working fine. So the third server was not working fine because, I mean, the server is fine, like our services they were all trash, like they were outdated. So because we only used it like 1 year ago for the last convocation, and then we didn't upgrade the services. So and then we downloaded, we updated and upgraded all the services. We just made sure that the entire base setup is done. Let's say the service is there, connectivity is there, power is there, and stuff like this is there, so that we can concentrate on the encoding and data delivery part, content delivery part on the subsequent days. So after checking up on that day, like we checked up all the three servers are up and running with proper power, networking, etc. So I made sure that I can remotely SSH into those servers, so that in the night, like we can come to CBS and then configure them properly. From CBS, we were configuring all the proper services that are needed for the server to do the live streaming properly. So for example, we did like couple of changes this year. Last year like it happened on a deadline actually. So the stream went perfectly fine, but after like evaluating some things, we noticed that there are like various points where you can just optimize it, so that there are various resources which you can optimize so that the throughput is high from the server. One of such things is that, let's say all the servers have like 3 to 4 LAN ports. So last time we just used one. So this time what we did was we kept all 3 LAN ports, and then we connected it to a 10 gig switch, which is the main switch for IITG, and then we aggregated all these 3 links. So individually we have like 1 gigabyte Ethernet ports in the servers. So now you have, if you combine them, you combinedly have like a 3 Gbps link to your server. And then we have 2 servers, so we have like 6 Gbps of like it can handle, our servers can handle 6 Gbps bandwidth of connections.
Hi, doing really hard work here. Really hard work.
Like while testing, sometimes the server also switched off, and like, or else like I logged myself out because of the firewall, so I had to keep on going back to the CC. And so this one time I just went back and then sat there and like got all the work done there. Basically we set up all the firewall, because we get like specific requests from computer center that the firewalls, since we are having all the controls of the server, we need to set up proper firewalls and take all the proper security measures. So I went to CC, I properly checked like everything, even like making sure that the LAN cable doesn't get pulled out and stuff. So we took care of all those kind of things. And main part is that there were like minute changes which I wanted to do in the our configuration file for the video streaming. So all those testings were done in the CC itself. Also this year we have VR live streaming, which we didn't have the last year. So setting that up was like dealing with that camera and configuring it in our network, and then setting it up on our server. We actually dedicated one complete server to it, because the transcoding takes a lot of CPU power for the 4K footage from the camera. So that thing was entirely new, and then it also happened in the last moment, like last couple of days. So the last couple of days mostly was spent doing this and finishing up and wrapping up the other stuff we are working on the normal stream. Let's say like fixing what HTML player we are going to use and stuff.
As we get closer to the big event, it was time to plan out another major task: video.
For an event of such importance, where the entire institute comes together, the entire passing out batch, we had to make sure that everything is perfect. So we had different teams working on all different aspects: the lights, the sounds, the video, the streaming. So all these teams are working parallelly, yet the team is like quite small, like 10 people, 10 to 15 people. So we are kind of overlapping on everything. So I was looking after the video things, and in the video again there were like multiple things which I had to take care of, from camera setup to what is being displayed on the huge LED panel in the auditorium, as well as what is going to be recorded and streamed. So how the video rig works is actually very interesting. So we have this BMD studio camera, and we connected through optical fibers to our main 4K studio, like this thing. This is a production studio. It can take up to 16 cameras. So we were having 7 cameras there, and we were getting all the feeds in the control room. And we were able to control the cameras from the production studio. So we can focus, we can zoom the camera, so the cameraman has to worry more about the frames than the actual focusing. And the person mixing takes care of the focusing as well. So I was the one directing this process throughout, and there were Arrhenius and Prerna who were mixing it for the event. And again, for such a big event, we had to do 2 mixes. One for the stream, and there was a huge LED panel there for the students who are sitting there to watch themselves on the stage, because the auditorium is so big and you can barely see a person on stage. The rehearsal was one day before the event, and we had to be ready on the day of rehearsal. So we started the entire preparations 1 week in advance. So it started with laying the optical fibers. Again, laying optical fibers is very tricky, because auditorium is a place which is not built for having optical fibers in it. In an auditorium where a lot of people are there walking around and all, optical fibers tend to break. And it happened actually on the day of rehearsal. Suddenly one of the optical fibers went down, and we did not know, like we could get the feed from the camera, but we were not able to control it. We were not able to do the color correction. And since there are multiple chains involved, for example, in this rig you can see like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things connected, and all of them are again interconnected. So it is very difficult to understand where things are going wrong unless and until you know everything in and out. So when we set the things in auditorium, we removed all the connections and redid the connections, just so that on the day, if anything goes wrong, I know what went wrong. So CC helped us in laying the optical fibers. We had them come from under the seats, over the ceiling, everywhere at appropriate points. Again, we had to figure out where to keep the cameras, because the entire auditorium is full. In fact, the space is so less that the parents have to sit in the conference hall and other places. So we have to strategically place the cameras, so we take as less space as possible, yet cover everything. Also, this event is like once in a lifetime thing for most of the students. So we cannot miss anyone.
Yeah, we got the cameras. The VR cameras.
The thing which we did not have figured out was the VR video. Like we had everything in theory, that this is how we could work. Like Sai, Raghu, Abhishek had sat down, like they looked after the stream, they had used simulations, but we had never used the actual VR camera. So when we got the VR camera, it took us like, we got it one day before the rehearsal first of all, and we had to spend the entire night just to get the feed out of the camera. Second thing was editing the footage after we got it. Live stream, it was being stitched live. But it is definitely better to stitch it again, because the recordings are better. There were about 6 videos, like there are 6 cameras there in the VR camera. So there were 6 different footages which I had to stitch manually. There are softwares for that, then again you have to make a few changes in that, so you get a very fine stitches, and oh god, that was just so difficult to do. When I finally did it, the event was like 3 hours event, and to render it, it took more than 50 hours. Like we just kept it on a computer, like hoping that the computer does not go off in between. And it went. So just before the end of the video, something happened and we had to re-render it again. So it took us a week to render the video so that we can upload them. in VR.
Now with all of the things in place, we're left with 2 days to go before the convocation. This is the time to make sure everything is working and fine, and to put in the maximum amount of effort. To start off, the video rig, the sound console, and the live encoding setup were migrated to the control room of the auditorium. With less than 48 hours left, getting the streaming network up and running was of prime importance.
So basically we had like 4 servers which were supposed to do the live streaming. 2 for the main 1080p feed from all our 8 cameras, and the other one is for VR, and then there's other server which is just dedicated for streaming to the conference rooms where the parents come and watch the live stream from. So basically the point is that even if the other servers fail, the one in the conference room, they shouldn't fail, because the parents are like right there, and then that's the top priority. So we dedicated one complete server to that, and also we have like different encoders to feed to the different servers, so that there is no single point of failure. And it is a chaos, like when you're managing all these like 4 servers, and you have to make sure that all of them are up and running, and etc. etc. So those were the IPs on the wall. Like we pasted the IPs and other details, obviously not passwords, IPs and like what they're supposed to do, and are we monitoring them or not, and what is the status updates of them, and etc. These kind of details. Couple of days before the convocation, they are like pretty insane, because we were trying out new things, and then basically you need to give that reliability. So, and I need to be 100% sure to tell the authorities that yeah, it's 100% reliable. I don't want. Another thing which we did different from last year is that last year we also streamed on YouTube, and this year we wanted to stream the entire thing on our servers with proper load balancing, etc.
With the rehearsal day looming up ahead, the network was subject to heavy testing, and the cameras were set up in advance. There was just enough time to accommodate another major challenge, the big LED screen on stage.
We were very excited about the LED panel. We were getting a bigger LED than the last time. But when the panel came, it turns out it has only HDMI and VGA inputs, which was like kind of very different to deal with, because we generally work with optical fibers. So we had to run an optical fiber from our system which will give an output. Then we had to put converters to give an HDMI output. And this was then given to the system on which the LED panel was working on. So the LED panel came, we set it up, and there were workers there who like, it was a very big screen, and like when I stood next to it, I like, wow, this is so grand. So we did it, but when we gave the feed to it, it was out of the aspect ratio. Like we couldn't figure out what went wrong there. It was coming in the totally skewed up ratio, and even the guy who brought the LED, he could not figure out, because he never experienced such a thing. So then Vivek Bhaiya came in, he spent like 2-3 hours there. I still don't know what he did, but in the end we got it working, and we had it working during the event as well. One new thing which we tried this year was showing the names of the people on the stage. Like this was somewhere there in our mind, in future CBS we should have something which would be a live overlay thing over the video, which is not a rendered video but something which you can type and it appears in the video properly. So there is some software for that, but they are like very basic things, and especially keeping in mind that this year there is an inter-IIT, so we were working on a full software solution which our team coded. We had an overlay with the name, the department and a degree being displayed. So again, as I said, this is not a rendered video. Like all the 1,000 names which are going to appear, there will be text files which are being converted live and appearing there. So I did not have much idea about the animation which was being involved here, because it was done in HTML5. So before the event I had to figure out how to make animations in HTML5. Then basically you have to put labels in that. You make text boxes which detect the text from the Excel sheets which we give. The day before the event, which is the rehearsal day, a huge thing went wrong. Half of the names disappeared from there. Like some random characters started appearing, but later on it turned out something from like the ampersand did something. I think Raghu Bhaiya would be able to explain better what happened. But yeah, it was finalized on the night of the rehearsal, and on the actual day of the event it came perfectly fine.
ठीक है, अभी उसका एक डिस्कनेक्ट कनेक्ट करना है,
By around 2 in the morning, most of the things were in place for rehearsal the following day. The team finally got a few hours of rest. June 24th, rehearsal day. At 9 a.m., the sound team arrives and starts setting up showers. This was the last remaining cord that had to be plugged before the rehearsal could start. By around 3 in the afternoon, students, parents, and faculty start filling the auditorium. The streaming rig in its entirety had been deployed, and every individual component is ready for takeoff. This includes video, audio, lights, network, and even the VR stream. Now we wait. An hour later, the rehearsal is done. Mostly it goes fine, except for a few things.
On the day of rehearsal, we found out that we don't have sufficient number of cameramen. So that was a huge thing which we did not expect. Like, it should have something which it is something which we thought we had figured out, but we did not. So there were 7 cameras, and we wanted 7 cameramen, and we were like searching for people who can be there, who can come up and help us. Luckily, we had some people who came in the end, but we had to change a few things. Like, I had to change the cameras. On the rehearsal, we found out that I can't have separate cameras in different places. So some of the cameras we brought together so that one person can handle both the cameras at the same time. And the wide angle camera, again, we brought it at a place in which it is not getting disturbed. One interesting thing was Anangsha was getting convocated this year. So we placed one camera near her seat so that she can just keep an eye over the camera. So she was sitting there waiting for her degree and keeping an eye on the camera as well. Like, it was very interesting. And people around her were like, wow, this person is doing so much.
Another trip to the catwalks was called for to make some last-minute adjustments to the light setup.
So we were limited with the lights. Of course, we did not get all the 48 lights working, which we really wanted because, number one, you need more lights. Number two, the cameras that we have are studio cameras, and they in general need more light, than normal cameras. So after the rehearsal, luckily we could make 4 more profile spots work, and that really made a lot of difference.
So during the rehearsal, actually one of the servers went down and then it didn't switch to the other server. So then we went and checked the configuration. There was this simple mistake in a logic, so we had to change that so that and then it worked fine in the convocation.
Apart from that, a few of the optical fibers had stopped working and needed to be replaced. The rehearsal also revealed that the microphones had been poorly placed. They were feeding back.
The audio network was somewhat like this. So we had 2 podiums on 2 sides, and they had 2 microphones. So actually both the microphones had different purpose. So even if one podium had 2 microphones, we used one for recording and we used the other for the PAs of the hall sound. During the rehearsal, one of the major things that I won't say it went wrong, but it was not the right way, was the music. Okay, so we had a percussion instrument, that's the tabla, for which we used a condenser microphone, which is like very sensitive. Then we had a keyboard, which was not an issue because it gave a direct line output. We had violin. Violin had, again, it was mic'd, and vocals. So we had 5 microphones for vocals. The place where it was placed, it had a cement wall behind it, and we had to give monitor aux output for them to listen to what they sing. So what happened was the sound reflected on the wall and was caught by the microphone, and that is where there were feedbacks. So we had to keep the sound really low, and then it really did not sound good. But that night, especially after most of the light things that I had to take care about was sorted, with my team, we went on the stage and we fixed that sound in a way that it had close to zero chances to feedback.
Do that on that mic. Why is it not?
So what I was trying to do in this specific video was, yeah, at times yes, that's how we check things. The next day when Pathak sir, the person who was responsible and plays violin, he was so satisfied with the sound that he actually came to me and he did say that it was a really good sound than the rehearsal, because they did not expect that would happen. But yeah, we did it. And finally, everything was smooth.
On the night of June 24th, the whole team sat down for dinner. The preparation for the event was complete. Next morning, not only CBS but the entire institute had a great, auspicious convocation. There were zero errors, video, audio, and stream all worked out
the Indian
perfectly
Institute of
fine.
Technology Guwahati, I shall uphold the dignity of the individual and the integrity of my profession.
I declare the convocation closed.
Now the national anthem will be sung. You are requested to stand up and not leave your place till all the members of the academic procession have left the hall.
Overall, I would say that it's a pretty good experience, because we have like limited resources, and then you have to optimize a lot of things, and this is a really like healthy workspace, which I would say, where you are constantly learning something which you don't know and which you won't get anywhere else to learn.
One thing which I liked about this event was while we were working, Krishna sir was there with us most of the time. Like, he used to just come in and see what is happening. He even stayed there late in night once just to see if everything is all right. And people from CC, they were like super helpful. Like, they took up things and did, which helped us in so many ways. And then there was always Bulu Pradhan sir, he's our chairman, and he was part of the food committee as well. So we did not have to worry about food at all. So we just got the food, like, so aake breakfast kiya, because we were sleeping in the auditorium. Like, for 3 days we slept in the auditorium because we had to figure everything out. It came out, it was pretty nice in the end. When I think about convocation, all that comes to my mind is all of the team working, everyone doing something or other. Like, there is no one who has time to even sleep. Everyone has something or other. Like, if you come into the CBS room at that time, you'll see every wall has some, like, or the other paper or chart in which it's written what has to be done now. The video thing, we have to do this, lights, this have to become audio, may stream, may something. And people haven't seen it for like 2 days, 3 days. We are drinking coffee over coffee. After the event, like, everything just like went down, and like we slept. I guess everyone slept for 2-3 days after that. So in the end, we did it. We made it happen. And yeah, there were a lot of surprises like that during the event. So we had different teams working on all of these things parallelly. And what the f is that? You knock, you look from there if it is recording. Kya hai tumko?
What the f? What? We are recording something. Kya chal raha, matlab kya hai?
Come in, you come in.
Okay.